the world of medicine, where every decision can change lives, your peace of mind is crucial. This is where Pattern steps in. Imagine insurance made simple, fast, and personalized just for you. With Pattern, you're not just getting disability and life insurance, you're ensuring your future and protecting your greatest asset, your income. In the past 10 years, Pattern has transformed the way over 20,000 doctors secure their financial well-being. Discover the simplicity of securing your future at patternlife.com or click the link in the description.
We work hard as physicians to take care of the health and well-being of our patients. But when it comes to our money, do we have the same condition of care? Probably not. Let's change that together. Welcome to the Financial Freedom for Physicians podcast, where we'll fight and advocate for your financial literacy. As always, I'm your host, Dr. Christopher Liu. Thanks for being here. Let's jump into the show. Hey guys, welcome to this week's podcast episode, and I've got a fantastic guest for you today, Greg DeVore, and he is the CEO of ScreenSteps, which we are going to learn about more today. And for the audience out there, this is an entrepreneurship podcast episode where we talk about raising VC capital and building a business, creativity, and it's going to be all around wonderful fireside chat. So Greg, welcome.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
And so you have you were in the music industry, and then now you're CEO of ScreenSteps. So talk about this journey, what led you to do it, and it's really fascinating.
Well, really, there was no master plan. A lot of things happened by accident. The first is, I went to Berklee College of Music. I majored in composition and film scoring, and worked in the film music industry, both in Boston and LA for a while. But back then, health insurance in the U.S. was a little bit different. And my first son was born very premature while we were on vacation. He was under 2 pounds. Because of that, he had some complications that continue to this day. And I was told, as long as you're a musician, an independent musician, nobody's going to give him health insurance. So it caused me to have to say, I've got to change careers here, because I've got to obviously have health insurance for him. And so my brother and I, an opportunity presented itself, and we started a company together. And initially, the primary thing was just to get health insurance, but it's grown into more than that since then.
Yeah, it's quite interesting. And there's this whole topic of health insurance for creators and independents and self-employed. It's kind of tied to an employment model which needs a change. But what I really love is, what is ScreenSteps? What does it do? How can it benefit the listeners? I'm curious.
Yeah, well, from what you've told me, a lot of your listeners are running their own business. A lot of times you'll have a doctor's office and you didn't sign up to be a business manager, but that's what you have to do, right? Or if you're an accountant or lawyers. So what ScreenSteps does is give you a way to prevent all of your staff from constantly asking you questions like, what's our policy on this? And how do I handle this invoice? And what's our process for this? Those business owners, they're bombarded by questions all day long. And sometimes it's hard for them to even get to their regular work. So what ScreenSteps does is allows you to take the operational expertise. It's not going to turn somebody into a lawyer, right? It's not going to turn them into a doctor, but how does your medical billing system work? How does your, appointments scheduling system work? All that sort of stuff, you can get it out of your head and in a format that your employees can find and follow on their own. And that when you get that level of independence for your employees, they're more confident and you are much less stressed.
Yeah. It's really interesting because I run a couple Airbnbs, and it's like I kind of know the ins and outs of, and then so there's each guest, and I find myself repeating the same things over, and sometimes you have miscommunications, and it's I've just been thinking how can I just remove myself and kind of focus more on like more important things. So it's really interesting how you do that. So what do you do it by software, or is it like how do you automate it so that employees can get up to speed and find it without just asking, without you being the first line of defense?
Well, really, there's two parts to it. So we have a framework for how you design this stuff, and then we have software that helps you do it. The framework is called Find and Follow. And so we have a book on that. It's called Find and Follow. You can find it on Amazon. And it lays out a new way of looking at transferring knowledge to your employees. Because the first thing you think of when you're doing that is like, okay, well, I just need to train them better. And I just need to train them better. And we spend all this time in training, but we don't get the results we want because they forget what we taught them. You'll hear that all the time. Well, I told them how to do this, but our memories aren't perfect. So what Find and Follow does is it gives you a different way of looking at that problem and a different approach, which is much more effective. You don't focus on teaching them a bunch of information. You focus on teaching them how to find and follow digital guides that you prepared. So you're teaching them to find the resources on their own instead of memorize everything you're saying. And then our software helps you create those digital guides in a way. So it's not just like a wall of text or typical documentation. It's designed so they can find and follow it without needing the help of somebody else. So instead of like this giant document says, well, if this, then do that. And if it's this situation, remember this. And one time this might happen. It just says, ask some questions like, okay, is this, are you trying to issue a refund or a credit to the account? Okay, it's a refund. Well, then do this. And what is this for someone who has insurance or are they self-paid? Well, it was insurance. Okay, well, now you need to do this. And so it guides them through that process, no matter how complex it is.
Yeah, I really like that framework is because kind of the motto is if you don't understand something, just go ask somebody versus try to be resourceful. So you're teaching them how to be resourceful and where to find resources.
Yep. And you're also putting responsibility on yourself to capture that information in a way that you don't have to clarify it later on. And that's what our tools help you do is capture it in a way and present it in a way that they're not going to need to come and ask you for additional help.
Yeah, I like that. And so what type of businesses sign up for Screenplay? Is it medical offices? Like a lot of the audience are dentists or doctors, or is it just other businesses? What kind of clients are signing up for the service?
So we range the gambit. We have smaller offices up to large multinational organizations. We really look at the team size and we specialize in those businesses that have a high level of complexity and a lot of change. Now, we will say, with our small ones, so if we're looking at a medical office or something of that size, one of the key things for this to be successful is identifying someone on your team that's going to be that knowledge champion. And the knowledge champion is that person who's going to make sure that all the resources are there for people to find and follow on their own. They don't have to be the expert, but they're the one who's going to make sure that, if it's the doctor that knows everything, that we get that knowledge out of his or her head, and with that we're identifying the questions employees have. So if you identify that knowledge champion, then we can work with a small office all the way up to a large organization, because that one person then is empowering everyone else.
Yeah, it reminds me because in the hospital, we had, it's almost like sometimes it was like a week of just onboarding and all these protocols and processes, and there was what they call that, what you're describing, a knowledge champion, somebody you could kind of ask or that could refer you to the right resources. The next question I have is you bootstrapped ScreenSteps 20 years, but then you've also taken VC funding, and what are some of the most challenging aspects of bootstrap versus venture capital?
Well, bootstrapping, you never get fired, but you don't always get paid. So when you're bootstrapping, you have to be really resourceful. You have to place kind of the bets very carefully. You can't, spend a ton of money in one area and hope that maybe it'll work out. And so there's pros and cons to it. One, the pro is that it makes you be very deliberate about what you do. The con is that sometimes you see an opportunity and you don't have all the resources to really go after it. And what it really forced us to do is we found as we were bootstrapping, we weren't going to be able to compete just on technology alone. We really had to specialize. And that's when we built this framework. And we just said, we're going to make every customer of ours successful because we're not just going to sell them technology. We're going to show them a better way to work. And that was fantastic. And once we saw that, every customer we applied that to was being successful, that's when it made sense then to take on investment because now we can grow that more quickly. We spent all those years bootstrapping, really trying to finalize and design what is that perfect formula for doing this. And now that we've taken on some investment, it allows us to move a little faster.
It's always a challenge between, bootstrapping VC, and then you're also giving up some control. Here's another question I have for you is, what are, a lot of organizations, they train employees, big organizations. What are some of the assumptions that the big organizations get wrong about training employees?
The biggest assumption, two big assumptions, right? One is that we need to focus on what the employees need to be able to know. And we don't want to focus on what they need to know. We need to focus on what they need to be able to do. Because at the end of the day, like the customer is asking a question or the patient's asking a question or they're being assigned a task, we need to really understand what do they need to be able to do. The other assumption is that the more our employees memorize, the more capable they'll be. And that's actually not true. We can actually accomplish much more if we offload the operational knowledge into a system like ScreenSteps that we can find and follow those guides when we need them. We become more adaptable to change. We're able to cross-train much more quickly if we really gain that skill of what we call it's learning to follow a GPS instead of memorize a map.
Interesting. Yeah, I like that. It's I love that framework that you have. So kind of rounding it out, you've got lessons from personal adversity, but one thing you talked about is this whole area of change and, especially with software, it's always changing and, especially with AI coming onto the scene. How are you looking at AI? How are you addressing it? How are you incorporating it into your company?
Well, AI offers a lot of great opportunities, especially for what we do. So what's happening is people are very excited about AI. If you've ever had, if you're in an office and you have documentation and you upload it to ChatGPT, all of a sudden you can start asking it questions and it gives you answers on that. All of that is contingent upon having a single source of truth for your business. And our framework really helps you do that, identify that single source of truth. Then we're using AI to help then capture that from people. So we're doing some internal tools right now where I can sit down with someone who knows how to do something instead of having them to type out a bunch of documentation which may or may not be clear. I can just interview them, transcribe that recording, bring that through AI, and that's going to create a guide that's very followable, that is like a recipe that somebody can follow. On the other end, we're bringing AI into the side of when people search for stuff, AI enhanced results. So it's understanding what you want better, but also being able to just ask questions instead of just search for a document. And if you've got that single source of truth, which ScreenSteps can help you create, then you can get really good answers back. What people are finding is if they don't have that single source of truth, AI can make things up, and that can lead to problems.
Yeah. Yeah, it's always a balance, and AI is going to be a tool in technology. Do you ever see, I'm sure a lot of ScreenSteps is human. You got human. You ever see where ScreenSteps becomes kind of AI kind of taking over or kind of coinciding with human responsibilities? And I don't want to say replace or take over, but we're slowly everything, AI kind of, you invest in AI as opposed to a person.
What we really look at it is not so much as ScreenSteps or AI will take over a person.
Yeah.
What it's going to do is make that person much more productive. So for example, we worked with one, it was actually a medical scheduling company. And after they adopt the Find and Follow framework in ScreenSteps, their contact center became twice as productive as they were before. So before, somebody in one shift would handle like 30 calls, and afterwards they're handling 70 to 80. So when you bring in that technology, it's not so much that you're saying, hey, this is going to replace your job, but we're going to take the people we have and make them much more productive so that when we're scaling up, we don't have to increase headcount quite as much. And that saves a ton of costs for the business. So there may come a time where obviously there's technology that will replace jobs, but where we're really focused on is how do we amplify that person so they can do 5, 10 times the work that they did before.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, AI has really been able to, increase and scale output, especially in most businesses, and it can automate, and the humans that learn how to use AI will really succeed. Rounding it out, talk about, lessons from personal adversity and for future entrepreneurs that want to start their own companies. How has your personal experiences shaped your business philosophy, your approach to resilience and adversity, especially in today's really unstable, very volatile times?
Yeah, well, going back to why I started the business, it was really so I could have health insurance for my son, right? And so as I approached the business, I approached it differently. It wasn't like I couldn't afford to go out there and go shoot really big and then end up with nothing, right? Or end up with nothing. I had to make sure that he was taken care of. And so we approached the business a different way where we wanted to be forward thinking, but we also wanted to do it in a responsible way that we're not getting our head over our skis and putting ourselves in a place where, hey, if we don't get that next round of funding, we can't do anything. And that, really forced us to build that business up block by block. And so, yeah, there's plenty of success stories of someone who takes on a bunch of funding for a great idea and runs with it. But I do think there is value in having to go slowly and really, really understand the core issue, the root cause of a problem, and solve for that. So I would advise, a lot of entrepreneurs will say this: don't fall in love with your solution, fall in love with the problem. And if you fall in love with that problem, then you can, and really understand it, then you can build something that's meaningful and makes a big impact on people, and hopefully be financially successful as well.
Yeah, I love that. Fall in love with your problem. I've heard fall in love with your customer, and I love that. How can people check out your company, check out your website, your services, your products, and reach out to you?
Yeah, so our company is ScreenSteps.com. They can go there. If they're interested in learning more about the Find and Follow framework, you can just go to findandfollowbook.com. And my name's Greg DeVore. I'm on LinkedIn. You can find me there.
Awesome. And for all the audience listening, Greg for coming on, and be sure to check out all of his resources will be in the links, and give him a like and follow on socials. And thanks so much.
Doctors dedicate their lives to caring for others. It's time someone took care of you. Visit patternlife.com to simplify your path to peace of mind. Patternlife.com, simplifying your insurance journey.
I'm excited that you made it for another episode. You are truly the best. If you've been following the show for a while, you know that my passion is to bring you the education you need to find your path to financial freedom. Please come back week after week for new content, new resources, and great guests. Until then, if you haven't already, please be sure to check out the website, www.drchrislumdphd.com for more support. I'll see you next week.